Yeah, HQ, welcome in. I'm Eric Casilius. Yes, here we go. The schedule release. And you know what? I'm a positive guy. And I don't like when media members come on and go, what's the big deal? It's schedule release. People are going to fire it up. Or the people want to knock the NFL. You know what? This is terrific. And like I always say, Shawshank Redemption, two things. One, I do a terrible red, but I enjoy doing it. And two, hope is a good thing. And you know what this does? It gives you hope. You can be a fan of any team. We're all playing tonight. And you can look at your team and go, why not us? Why not now? You can be positive. Even the hardest, most negative glass half empties can be positive tonight. And that's something to celebrate. So let's take a look at exactly where we are with the schedules. Now, when you look at the schedule, just so you know, it's coming out in an hour. We know who your opponents are. We know who your home opponents and your road opponents are. We just don't know the order. And the toughest schedule, based on strength of schedule, this is last year, Rams, Cardinals, again, same division, playing well. You would think that the champs, they won a division, they play in a good division, and then you go all the way down from there. These are the teams that are in good divisions. I mean, you look at the AFC West, that's the SEC of right now of the NFL, and they're all going to play each other. So a lot of those teams on there as well. Now, the easiest strength of schedule. Now, you could say, well, this doesn't mean anything. It means something. I'd rather be on this list than the other list, wouldn't you? I mean, I'd rather play the easier schedule. I mean, it's not a guarantee. But overall, you would think that you want to be on this list right here. And look at the top four teams. All putrid NFC East teams. Your older brother had a league where that was this was the marquee division. And now, not. Welcome in our quarterback, Danny Cannell. He played in the NFC East when it was the NFC East and led the Giants to a division title as part of his NFL career. All right, so I just showed the hardest schedules and easiest schedules by percentage. How much does that matter? I mean, some people just throw it out completely. I won't throw it out completely. I mean, I'm not going to base every pick on it, but doesn't it tell you something?
Yeah, for sure, EK. And I think this is by design. The NFL wants to try to make it tougher. So there's parity on the teams like the Rams. You don't want just teams waltzing through and creating dynasties with ease. And it's another reason why I typically fade the Super Bowl champions and even the Super Bowl losers most of the time. And it's why you don't have very many teams repeat.
And let me back you up there. I mean, this becomes kind of startling, right? Since the Super Bowl, since the Bills went to 4 straight, that's 29 years. One team that lost the Super Bowl went back the next year. One.
Yeah.
And in the last 50 years, that same team is the only team to lose the Super Bowl and then win it the next year. The Super Bowl loser never does anything the next year. And it's been 20 years since we've had a repeat champion. So I'm with you.
Yep.
I'm always fading the teams that were in the Super Bowl the year before, and it's worked out to be a good strategy. Sorry.
Now, what's I think interesting and enticing is it also designed to try to help teams at the bottom of the rung, like we're seeing in the NFC East, unfortunately, give them a little chance to get some legs under them, right? To build up some confidence, hopefully get a franchise turn in the right direction. And we're seeing that with this division with the easiest schedule there percentage-wise. But to me, it still is very tough. And I think you see some inflated numbers, and we're going to do some win totals throughout the next couple hours. And that's a direct reason why, because the schedule is so easy. But I do think this is part of the NFL's genius, why it's the most popular brand and the most popular sport in our country right now. And you talked about it right off the top. If you're a Giants fan, Washington fan, Eagles, Cowboys, you're starting to look at that schedule and saying, yeah, you start writing in those W's. And you're like, why not us? And there is something to it. I've been on teams that have been bad, and all of a sudden you start going rolling. That 97 Giants team you always love to reference with me on here, we started to feel confident. We started to gain something behind us, some momentum. And in large part, that was probably because the schedule was easy after coming off a couple 4, 12, and 5, and 11 years and struggling somewhat. We get a schedule that's favorable, and we played into it, and it worked. So it's part of the genius of the NFL. I think the scheduling, and it's by design, and I think it's an incredible product because of it.
And as we say, if you're looking at the difficulty of schedule and easy of schedule based on percentage, it tells you something, but you can't take it as gospel. Rams, toughest schedule by percentage. Part of that is, Seattle. They no longer have Russ. Part of that is San Francisco. Well, I don't know who's playing quarterback there. It may not be Jimmy Garoppolo. They may be turning over to a new guy. Part of that's Arizona, who I think was a little overrated last year and faded down the stretch and didn't do much for you. So maybe that's not quite the difficult schedule that we've talked about. Plus, they get the opening night. And Sean McVay, 5-0 in his career opening night. Super Bowl champs, 19-3 opening night. A little something there. And the NFC gets extra home game this year. So they play more home games than the AFC does. So when you see them at 10.5, is this maybe the one year to sort of, look at each other and go, let's go the other way? You know what I mean? Let's go with over the Rams.
I'm sticking with my philosophy as it's always been. I'll take the under. It's just human nature. When you go out for a really nice dinner and you stuff your face, the next night you're going to be quite as hungry. You're going to take it easy a little bit. You might still have a little bit extra in your belly. You just don't go back to the dinner. You don't go back there again. I think it's really tough to back up what you just did. And there was so much momentum around the Rams last year. Think about it. Matthew Stafford, big trade, pressure around him.
Playing at home in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
all
you look,
of that.
Take me through as a player's perspective. I can just sort of shape you there a little bit. Like, I didn't get to play in the NFL. You did. You get a lot of attention when you play in the NFL in that city. When you win, you get even more attention. It's been an off season of every Ram not picking up a check, being patted on the back, told how wonderful they are. Is it as hard or is it as motivating to get up and work out in the gym all day when everybody's telling you how awesome you are and how well you're doing?
Incredibly hard. And again, I played on a team right after they lost the Super Bowl. I wasn't a part of the Atlanta Falcons when they lost the Super Bowl, but I went there the next year. So I was in that locker room. And what happens is an attitude of complacency and, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll get things back on track. And usually what happens is if you have that mentality, you get complacent, you lose a few games. Like you lose one game, you're like, it might be ugly. And you're like, we'll be fine. We were in the Super Bowl last year. We know what we're capable of. You lose 2 games in a row. Yeah, well, we'll be fine. We'll get there. We had a 2-game losing streak last year. We can do it again. And then all of a sudden you look up, you've lost 3 or 4 games in a row or 4 out of 5. And then the next thing you know, everyone else is out to get you. They're improving. You're kind of staying stagnant. And a lot of times you try to flip on that switch and it's too late. And it's such a cliche, but it is so true. Championships are won in the offseason with the preparation that goes in, both training, like getting your body in shape, your mind around the playbook, continuity among the players, training, going to travel different places to work out with the receivers, the skill positions. And that usually is out of a desire to do something special that you haven't accomplished yet. If you've already been there, you're getting appearances, late night show, filming commercials, going around the country, making some money now. It's good for them, but you're usually not as hungry to get that next championship as you are with the first.
All right, so who is hungry? And maybe a team, by the way, Dallas could be hungry, right? They've been an underachieving team, and we both made a lot of money betting against Dallas, right? The more public the team, the more I want to bet against them. I bet a lot of Tennessee Titan overs. They always go over. No, who's holding Tennessee Titan tickets? But Dallas shows up. They're the Cowboys, they're this. There's a lot of sizzle and not much stake, at least in results, for a long time now. But are they the hungry team? They have the easiest schedule. They're at 10.5. They're in a bad division. They got a lot going right. Maybe we take Dallas over. Is it time to pivot and sort of go same thing where we've been playing against Dallas? Maybe this now, it's like hold now, Braveheart.
I do, because I think Dallas is the best team in a bad division. And I know last year the playoff exit was awful. It was ugly. What transpired in the last play there was probably inexplicable. Mike McCarthy's having to answer for it. And I also think at the same time, this team has a ton of pressure around it. But with that pressure comes that sense of urgency. And I think Dak Prescott as well, another year removed from that horrific injury that we all saw on national television. That's a hard injury to come back from. And I came back quick, and I thought he played really well around it last year. I think he's going to improve. Granted, doesn't have the weapons around him, but I think it's a massive year for Dak Prescott to step up. We saw a breakout star in Micah Parsons on the defensive side of the ball. I think they'll get better on the defensive side of the ball. But the schedule in this instance does matter to me because they do have a cakewalk of a schedule, one of the easiest in the NFL. I think they take advantage of it. And because they were embarrassed in that last time we saw them out, I think they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder in what typically is an organization, America's team. Everybody's telling how great you are, picking him for the Super Bowl. I think a lot of people are starting to criticize them after last season. I think this is the time to get in on the Dallas Cowboys as opposed to selling.
Can I push back a little? I agree with you, by the way, but let me go the other way. And you played in this division, which is why I'm bringing this up. It's been 17 straight seasons that whoever won the division didn't win it again next year. That is a shocking number. 17 straight years, if you won the division, you have not repeated. Is that just a number for number's sake, or does that speak to you in any way?
I mean, historically, it always spoke to how tough it was to win the division. Now, recency, it's like, well, how do you explain that just other than there's been a crapshoot of bad teams that are there? But I look at it as a sense of the organization that I feel most stable right now, and it is at the most important position of the game, and the coach as well. I know Mike McCarthy took some heat last year, but he is a Super Bowl winning coach. I think Dak Prescott, I have confidence in him. Are you sold on Jalen Hurts? I'm not. I know they made the move for A.J. Brown. I know they're trying to put some pieces around him. I think they'll be better. They're the second best team. I am not sold at all on Washington with Carson Wentz in that experiment. And the Giants have been one of the worst franchises in the NFL. So until I see them turn a corner, I feel like it's a two-team race. And if it's Philly or Dallas, give me Dallas all day long.
All right, let's take a look at week one. Week one's out. So let's get Danny Kanell's thoughts as we reveal what the week one schedule is going to be. There are some very interesting matchups here. So it's going to kick off out in LA. Super Bowl champs always open at home, and they're bringing in Buffalo, who has the shortest odds to win the Super Bowl this year. So the defending champs against the team that has the best odds to win it this year. That's a great start. And then the week ends with the Russell Wilson Bowl. You wonder when we're going to get it? Right out of the gate. Week one, Russ, Broncos go up to Seattle. That's going to be a wild scene. Some of the other matchups, you have Raiders, Chargers. That's how we ended the regular season last year in a winner-take-all game where the Raiders pulled the upset and won. We also have a rematch of last year, week one, Cowboys, Bucks. The Bucks were the champs. They opened the season there. Packers, Vikes, right out of the gate there. That should be pretty fun as well. You got some division games as you see there. So going to be very interesting week one already, giving you a bunch of goodies. There are a lot of games to like there. What stands off the page? I mean, you got Steelers, Bengals right out of the gate. Yeah. You got Dolphins, Patriots, which was week one last year. What do you like here?
This one to me is pretty easy. I mean, I love the Bills-Rams matchup. Don't get me wrong. Competitive-wise, I think that'll be probably one of the more entertaining games. But don't you always want to see what somebody looks like in a new uniform? Yep. What are they going to be? I mean, Russell Wilson going, yep. And not only that, if it was the Broncos versus anybody, I'd be intrigued to see what Russell Wilson looked like. The fact that he's going to Seattle, his old stomping grounds, with a chance for revenge and a team that looks like they're rebuilding and what could get him off to a fantastic start. I think Russell Wilson is due for a massive year this year, coming off the injury last year. You look at how he's embraced the franchise, the city, the surroundings in Denver, moving his family out there, really settling in to play in that role. And I think he's one of those quarterbacks that brings the intangibles that Denver's been lacking at the quarterback position since Peyton Manning was there. I mean, they've had a bunch of, they've had their issues at quarterback, but they need stability and they need leadership. They need somebody to set a tone and a culture in that locker room. I think Russell Wilson's the perfect example to do that. Now, they do have some issues that cropped up today that possibly could impact one of his wide receivers, but I think with the talent that's around him, I think you'll see one of the biggest improvers out there. And I don't know. I don't want to go out there and be a Pete Prisco and start guaranteeing, Super Bowl wins right now. But it's 16-1 in the AFC. I don't hate the odds there. If you want to take a flyer on it, I expect big things from the Broncos. The division is a problem with all the competitions that's in there. But Russell Wilson, I think people have been sleeping on him because of one bad year. I look at him as reinvigorated. I think he's going to have a huge year. See,
I just kind of look at that division and go, there's no homecoming game, right? You played at Florida State. If you can't spot the homecoming game, you are the homecoming game. And nobody's the homecoming game in that division. They're all pretty even. I mean, it's kind of like NASCAR. That division could be a lot like the AFC North last year with Baltimore and Cleveland and Pittsburgh and Cincy going down to the wire. There could be a lot of 9-8s, 10-7s. You may have to go on the highway if you make the playoffs because, I mean, there's not a lot of Jacksonvilles and Houstons in that division, which is going to be tough. And again, the AFC, you get the one less home game this year. The AFC had the more home games last year. That was the first year of the 17 games. All right, Russ versus Seattle, obviously huge game. Call it a revenge game, but, one of those kind of things. Whatever word you want to use, we'll use revenge for lack of a better term. Let me give you some of the other ones. Pick one out. Deshaun Watson going to play against the Texans, assuming he's eligible based upon time of year and that kind of thing. How about Carson Wentz against the Colts and the Eagles? A.J. Brown against the Titans. And let me throw one little off the board. Mike McCarthy against the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Which one is the biggest revenge game on the board for Danny Kanell?
Can I get one that you didn't give me?
Yeah, of course.
I like the Bucks Rams. Remember how Tom Brady lost last season at home scent packing, when he puts his team in a position to, extend that game, to win that game. Matthew Stafford makes a great throw, wins the game. I'm curious to see that game. I'm also curious to see, anytime Tom Brady's involved, Tom Brady going back to San Francisco to play against Jimmy Garoppolo. He's old, back up there. All of these are great games. The Mike McCarthy going back to Green Bay, but I don't, the coach thing doesn't do it as much as seeing a player. I'll say A.J. Brown in the Tennessee rematch. That one to me was one of the surprising trades we saw during the draft. I think it from both angles. I know, from the Titans' perspective, what does it mean for Ryan Tannehill? I think they got to feel flustered, a little bit, rattled. What are they going to do with Treylon Burks, who I'm big on, the young rookie they drafted? So I'll throw that one out there as a really intriguing matchup.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson against the Texans is going to be a weird scene. If
they got to put that towards the back end, right? Just to try to see if we can get it.
I would think so. And by the way, the NFL, with what they've released already so far, has knocked it out of the park. Danny Cannell, you did the same thing. He'll be with us all night long, letting us know what's going on. And top of the hour, that's it, schedule release. You get it all. We'll know, and we have you covered. We'll break it down. Best possible ways, what you really need to know. I mean, you can look at the opponents right now. You know who your team's playing, and you know the home games and the road games. Now you're going to get the order and how and what it all means. We have you covered. Let's get the crew in. Love having Charles Davis. He calls these games for CBS. Nobody better. And our two-time Super Bowl champion, the man in the secondary, Brian McFadden, jumping aboard. B-Mac, let me start with you. Schedule comes out. What are you looking for? Everybody I talk to, I've asked this question to a lot of people. First thing I say is, when's my bye week? Is it early? Is it middle? Is it late? And then the second answer is usually something different. What do you look for?
Of course, the bye week is extremely important. As a player, you get an opportunity to know exactly when you get that extra needed rest, right? Having a weekend off, being able to prepare your body in the mental elements of the game and recharging your battery. So that's important. But outside of that, guys, I always like to look at the divisional matchups. How soon, how early will we start our divisional matchups against divisional foes? That's extremely important.
And did you want them early or late? Do you want the schedule front-loaded with divisional games or late?
I wanted them in the middle. I wanted them in the middle because the thing about playing against a divisional foe in the beginning of the season, there's a lot of unknowns out there. So you don't want to start off early in the season 0-1, 0-2, especially if you're 0-1, 0-2 in your division. Now you're fighting from behind. So me personally, I would love to have the divisional games in the middle. And the last thing, primetime matchups. How many primetime games do you have on your schedule to be able to showcase to the entire football world what type of individual you are as a player, and then in totality, your team?
Charles Davis, what would you be looking for? I mean, I would want to know, do I have to go into radically cold weather in December? Like if I'm playing Buffalo, is it September or is it December? And I want to know about the holidays, right? I mean, am I playing on Thanksgiving? Am I playing on Christmas? Christmas Eve, there's a slate this year. Christmas Day, there's a slate. What would you be looking for?
Well, Eric, it certainly sounds like you're as soft as I am.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking
like butter left on the counter overnight. Right? That's how soft I am.
Right. So you and I agree on that. The second thing is, before I get into it, B-Mac's set. I love how he has his jerseys bookending Patrick Peterson's 2-on-1. I absolutely love it. B-Mac, to you, I love that. Look, for me, it's how are we going to start? I want to know the first four because I'm breaking the season down into quarters. Now, I know we have the 17th game now, so that makes it a little problematic with my math. But how are we coming out of the gate that first month? What B-Mac talked about, starting out 0-1, 0-2 is one thing. But those are divisional games. How important are those? The next thing I want to know, international, and do I have short week games? Because then I'm talking to my teammates. Remember, guys, we're going to have a few of these short weeks. We're going to have a few of these where we go to the West Coast. We have to come back to the East Coast and play. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to prepare for all of this if we're going to accomplish the goals we want to accomplish. We do know that the league always backloads the schedule in terms of divisional games down the stretch. And we know the last week of the season is going to be a divisional game. So don't think that, hey, we're going to get that week off. But boy, if we have a big year, maybe we can take that week off and prepare for the playoffs anyway. But for me, how am I coming out of the gate? Those first four are vitals.
You mentioned travel. I'm going to get to that in a second, but let me follow up, Charles, with you. If we know that we have, let's say, 5 really good opponents, right? We're playing the Bills, we're playing the Chiefs. Do we want those to be front-loaded and get them out of the way and sort of have a soft landing down the stretch? Or do we want those late in the year where maybe they don't end up being as good at teams because there's always some surprises? And give me the Jacksonvilles of the world early. Does it matter when you get a team? Would you rather have the easier part of your schedule early or late?
Frankly, I'd like to have them stretched throughout, and here's why. Because now during the dog days of the season, as you're struggling, as you're beat up a little bit, you get, oh God, I got to go do this. It's snowing outside. I need something to prepare for. I know it's not college football, but you know what it's like. And B-Mac can tell you, when you have that game on your schedule that you're pointing to, and oh boy, they're coming up. If you have a few of those sprinkled throughout, so much the better. Obviously, your health of your team is going to play into it more than anything else. But having something to aim towards, something to ramp up to, I think that's always a positive.
All right, we have just heard and learned. Here we go. It is going to be the Bills opening night, heading to L.A. to SoFi to take on the Rams. I mean, look, we figured it was either going to be Bills, Niners, or Cowboys. Could have a rematch last year's NFC Championship game with the Niners. You can always sell Dallas or the Bills. But Bills, to me, jumped off the page, right? This is the Super Bowl favorites this year against the Super Bowl champs last year. So Bills, Rams. B-Mac, first impression there. Did they make the right call? I mean, who's going to have a problem with this? And what are you thinking?
I love it. They made that was the only call they needed to make. If it was free or collect, I don't care. Make that call and let's make it happen. And I'm so happy to see this matchup because let's keep it real, guys. This could be a Super Bowl preview in Arizona, right? The expectations for both teams, when you look at the experience at key positions, especially at the quarterback position, then you look at both coaches, highly respected throughout the entire NFL. So this is I'm so fired up, man. I was excited for the draft, but now just knowing when we will see some of these prolific teams face off makes getting ready for the NFL even that much better. So, yes, this was the right and only call.
Knocked it out of the park. Charles, Bills, Rams. Was there any other call here?
Not as far as I'm concerned. I think that Brian McFadden nailed it because I wrote down on my list what were the games I wanted. I put Bills first, Bills second, Bills third. I'll tell you how I feel about the whole thing. But look, you got two monster arm quarterbacks. Josh Allen with the Bills, Matthew Stafford with the Rams. How perfect is that? They will both take their shots downfield. You got a Bills secondary that's trying to rebuild, and they probably won't have Tre'Davious White back after the injury on Thanksgiving last year. How will they contain Cooper Kupp, the Super Bowl MVP and the Triple Crown winner last year, moving downfield? Hey, Cam Akers back fully for the Rams against that Bills defense. This is going to be a whole lot of fun. And remember, the Bills defense, they feel like they've got a lot to prove because they were 13 seconds away, essentially, from going on and advancing and possibly getting to a Super Bowl. They let that slip away. They got something they want to avenge. I think it's the perfect call. And in the NFL, we always talk about the Cowboys, but the NFL, any team that's great can be a national team.
If you thought they knocked that one out of the park, wait till you hear what just came down. But by the way, B-Mac, opening night, when you're here with me, I'm going to be telling you that we're going to take the Rams. Sean McVay, 5-0 against the spread week one as the coach of the Rams. Champs 19-3 week one, last 22. So you watch, there'll be a lot of love in the Bills, and you and I are going to go very quietly. We're going to sneak underneath, and we're going to take the Rams. You want to talk about knocking out of the park? How about this? First Monday Night Football game. Russell Wilson in Seattle. Denver going up to Seattle. Boom! We're just getting it right out of it. Let's go. No, this is the no preamble, no messing around. Let's go. Russ up in his old barn out of the gate. Charles Davis, thoughts?
No one happier than Russell Wilson that it's week one. It's done now. We can go do this. All this conversation, we'll talk about it between now and kickoff, and then it's finished. He doesn't have to worry about it anymore. Imagine if this were week 18. And he had to go through the entire year, always being asked, being talked about, all this. This is absolutely perfect. I absolutely love that opener, B-Mac.
Well, for me, I love Russell going to Seattle. But, Charles, I don't know if I want to see week one Monday Night Football. I mean, think about this. One team has playoff aspirations. One team, they have a legit shot to get to the championship. The other team, I mean, they're just trying to survive. So you're talking about a quarterback matchup. You just highlighted Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, two outstanding arms. Well, in that matchup, you got curly hair Russell Wilson and Drew Lock or Geno Smith. I mean, if you combine Drew Lock and Geno Smith, we're still taking Russell, curly hair Wilson. So I love that he's going back
You're
home.
bringing me
to get
down.
some home cooking. I don't know about
B-Mac,
week
you're
one
bringing
Monday
me
night.
down. I mean, that would hurt. I mean, and here's the other part too, to go along and continue where your line is. Monday night is now a split game. It's not back-to-back games where we get the whole of both. You got to toggle between two. They're going to play
But this is week one. They're doing that week 2 this year, right? It was going to have the double games in week 1.
Oh, okay. Well, good. As long as we're off the hook.
Yeah, that's
as long as we get to see the whole thing. And I'll finish with this then. The last time we totally counted Seattle out, you remember a few years ago? Said, yeah, they got no shot. They're going to win 3-4 games. They went to the playoffs that year.
They had Russell Wilson, but they had Russell Wilson.
I know they had Russell. I'm not counting Pete Carroll out.
All right, B-Mac, I'll help out Charles Davis here and make his point with him. You know what the line is? The line just came out on that game. How about Denver is favored by just 3.5, and your total is 41.5? That's it. I don't see them as that different. 3.5.
Wow.
They are begging you to take the Broncos when Russ goes up to Seattle. Well, your thoughts on the 3.5, 41.5, just first blush?
I'm surprised, number one, but it's too early. We're still in the offseason, so you mean to tell me I got to have these pressure cookers already when you look at the lines and what Vegas is doing and why they're doing it?
Yes.
You're right. But, EK, this is what we do.
Yes.
So you know what? With that being said, EK, I think the most ideal number is the total. The total, 41.5. One thing about week one matchups, especially when there's a lot of changeover with both organizations, usually you see a slow pace when it comes to the offensive production. With Denver, granted, with Russell Wilson and all the pass catches he has, we might not see the best Broncos offense in week one. So me personally, I like the under with 41.5. So I'm telling you right now what I'm doing. I'm taking the under already. Monday night, week one, Broncos, Seattle, under.
All right, so we're going to take the Rams on Thursday, and we're going to take the under on Monday night. Okay, fair enough.
Nice parlay.
Let's go kind of full circle here. You know, just big picture with all the teams. We know some of the matchups. We discussed those. But, Charles, you brought up travel, and we have some international games. We have a game in Munich, Mexico City. We always have the London games. And if you look at travel, Pittsburgh does not leave their time zone the entire year. How is that even possible? While Seattle goes 30,000 miles. But when you look at it and you have these international games, what game sticks out to you? And when you think travel, I'm just going to kind of put them together and let you pick what sort of jumps off the page to you as one of our great analysts who's doing games here.
Travel doesn't bother me as much, and it's easy to say because I'm not in the seat going. But the teams have gotten so sophisticated about understanding what to do with travel. The later you want to go to Denver because of the altitude, when you want to get to town for London, going to Mexico City, bringing your own supplies. They figure it out. They work into it. And by the way, last year, San Francisco, I believe, had the most travel miles, went to the NFC Championship game. Seattle always is going to travel like crazy, and they've been to 2 Super Bowls. If you're good, you figure it out. For me, the game is an NFC West divisional game in Mexico City, San Francisco, Arizona. That's the most intriguing for me. Late November, they get to go at it, a divisional matchup. I think that's the one that jumps off the page for me. Of course, I have to give a nod to the Giants-Packers, 2 traditional franchises now going across the pond to play, and the fans in England have to be ecstatic. They've had to deal with a lot of really bad matchups over the years. Now you're getting 2 of the premier franchises in NFL history coming over. I think they'll be really excited about it at Tottenham.
Yeah. And Charles, I love that divisional matchup in Mexico City. Outside of the divisional teams playing against each other, they love football in Mexico City. I went to Mexico City a few years ago for the Super Bowl matchup with the Ravens and the 49ers. And man, they showed me so much love. I'm waiting for my next invite, by the way. But the most intriguing matchup for me is the Seahawks and the Buccaneers. And the reason why I'm going that direction is because where the game is being played, they're in Germany. The first NFL game in Germany. You better believe the fans will be fired up for that matchup, regardless of the 2 teams that are kicking off, right? We don't have a lot of high expectations for Seattle, but just being able to tap into new soil is important for the NFL, and they're doing a phenomenal job being able to showcase the talent throughout the entire world. So me personally seeing that in Germany, I'm going with that ball game because that's the first game, NFL game in Germany.
Yeah, Mac, I love that. And real quick, Eric, I love that for this reason. We know that the Autobahn is in Germany. So for that ball game, Tom Brady pressing it down on essentially Autobahning his offense in Tampa in Germany. And can Seattle find a way to mash the gas as well? B-Mac's already talked about the issues that they're facing going in. Let's see how they respond and see if they want to go ahead and slow play it and play with big trucks and run it in that ball game. But Brady, he's going to be mashing the gas hard on that one because there is no speed limit on the Autobahn.
There you go. Very well done, gentlemen, breaking it down. So the Rams are going to host the Bills opening Thursday night. First Monday night game, Russ with his Broncos going up to Seattle right out of the gate. Let's go see the X's and get it out of the way. Just some of the fun that is coming down the pike on schedule release day in the NFL. And you want to hear more and know more about what's going on in the league, all things covered, part of our great family of podcasts. It's BMAC, it's Patrick Peterson. You download, you follow, you enjoy.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.